Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is a guide on how to actually properly level up at Endgame in New World. Now, what I'm going to go over is, of course, once you hit level 60, a lot of you guys will know the real grind starts getting to that 590 gear score level. And of course, as well as doing that, there's some other things that you need to do along the way, maybe getting your trade skills up, whatever the case may be. But today, what I am going to do is show you guys how you can properly gear up in terms of PvP, PvE, wars, whatever you want to gear up for, and how you can do it successfully. So I'm first of all going to cover what to do when you first hit level 60, and that is really going to be to get your gear scores up. Now, you'll be able to see that a few of mine are now at 590, I'm slowly starting to get there, 580, but this actually isn't too important if you are able to craft, or you have someone that can craft for you. So, what I'm going to go over is what you need to be doing personally, or if you've got friends that can do stuff for you as well. How you can make good builds and what you need to know about a build to make it good so that you can start to create your own stuff, as well as, you know, watching myself or other content creators' guides, how you can tune those towards your own build. So right now I'm running a little bit of a funky one, and usually I'm running the Great Axe or the Warhammer and the Life Staff because it's kind of like a hybrid CC Paladin. Right now I'm trying out Rapier and Life Staff. This thing is absolutely nuts. I managed to craft this, and this is the power of crafting. So I've got Weaponsmith in level 200, maxed out with trophies, food, and of course the full set. And yeah, I can craft this, level 600. Very, very nice. I've also crafted some other stuff, you know, like this Rapier here, which is 598, and this one has Plague Strikes on, so I'm trying out the brand new perk there as well. And these things, you know, are really, really cool to be able to have on your set. But obviously not everybody has access to them, so I'm going to show you guys how you can actually build stuff. So, first things first, if you have a look in my inventory here, you guys can see that obviously I have the Void Bent Helmet and the Void Bent Chestplate. I'll start off with these pieces because I think these are the most commonly known about pieces. In order to craft these, you will need to get yourself some Void Bent Ore, which is a legendary drop from Orichalcum, and of course then make that into a Void Bent Ingot, and it's 1 ingot per piece that you make, so you would need 5 if you wanted a full set. Now, for example, here, these ones are 600 gear score, and they are crafted, so they won't be decreased, even if my gear score wasn't at 590 or 587 as my helmet is there, my expertise, they won't get downgraded. But what these do is give me plus 25 constitution. They also give me 3 perks, which are resilient, they are invigorated, and they are luck. So obviously luck is really, really good when you're looking for drops there. You want to try and get some better quality stuff and better chance rare items from chests and monsters. It's what you want. It's good. Invigorated is weaken, disease, exhaust, and rend expire 7.5% faster. Those used an awful lot in wars, and right now with some of the new perks makes these probably one of the best ones you can get. And then you've got Resilient, which is critical hits, deal 4.8% less damage to you. Right now, everybody is doing crit builds. There's a lot of really heavy hitters that are managing to get some strong crits. So having Resilient on is a very, very good thing. But what you will notice about these pieces, and it's the same exact perks for the chest plate as well. I've put Onyx Gems in there for physical resistances just because they have slightly more elemental by default. If you look at the top values there, just under the 600, for example, a chest plate is 754 elemental and 503 physical. But these two pieces, albeit they are very, very good, they do not have what you would call weapon perks on. Now, this is going to be where a lot of people take their build from a mediocre build to a very, very good build. And this is how you can start to build an end game kind of overall class, if you like. Now, of course, these are really, really good pieces. They're 600 gear score, they're legendary, they've got high resilience, they've got high elemental and physical ratings of armor, and they've got good perks on. But what you guys will see is if I go down, for example, to these boots, now you might notice, yeah, these are 590, so maybe you might think at first glance they're not quite as good. But, of course, they are strength focus. Again, as I say, this is for my old build. I literally have just swapped over, so I was using the Warhammer with that, which is a strength-based weapon, and then focus for my life staff, and then a little bit in con as well, which I'll go over attributes in a moment. But here you guys will be able to see that I have Resilient on as well. So again, really, really good, less crit damage. But it also has something called Fortifying Sacred Ground. And that is when allies healed by Sacred Ground gain a Fortify buff, increasing their damage absorption by 9.2% for 5 seconds. Now, that kind of sounds like 5 seconds. Is it a lot? 9.2%. You're essentially giving just shy of a 10% damage decrease to everybody in a big AoE area for 5 seconds every time they're in that circle. And bear in mind that circle lasts for a while. This can be for quite a long time. Now, this is probably one of the best perks all healers, I would say, should have, especially in wars, because at wars and PvP, you know, Outpost Rush, whatever you're playing, all the time, you're probably going to be using Sacred Ground. It's probably one of the best, if not the best AoE heal. Maybe Orb, maybe that. It depends, or Beacon, I should say, rather than the Orb. But it is exceptionally good, and the perk having that on is way, way better than all 3 of the perks on this one. Now, of course, I don't have luck. So if you are still leveling, you're still wanting to get gear, then that could be a good thing to have. And of course, I don't have Invigorated, which I would say is really, really good. But it does have the Resilience still. And I was able to put in the Onyx Gem. It is missing a perk because it's not at 600. So I could re-roll these with my Armorsmith and friends and try and get a 600 roll with these things on. But I would much, much, much rather have the Fortifying Sacred Ground with these, because that is what you need for an end game build. And that's where a lot of players don't understand. So we'll move on to the next one and show you guys again. Leeching Path of Destiny. Again, so right now for this build, it's not that great for me because obviously I've got the Rapier there and the Life Staff, so I'm not using the Warhammer. But for war builds, I'm going to be switching back to Strength, so I'm obviously keeping this. Focus and Constitution are the stats that I will need for that, because obviously Health and Focus for the Life Staff, Healing, etc. I've then got Wilderness Ward, so 1.9% physical and 0.63 elemental damage absorption. Again, just helping me be a little bit more tanky. Lost Ward, which really is kind of a dud. It really is not that great. It's kind of okay for some kind of elite zones that I'm doing, but overall, not that great. I suppose Siren Queen it's decent for as well. But generally, in PvP especially, it's absolutely trash. But Leeching Path of Destiny is really, really good. So this one is heal for 28% of the damage dealt from Path of Destiny. So essentially, a third of the damage you deal, when you use that ability, will heal you. So again, versus players that don't have that, you're going to have a ton more sustain. You're going to be able to keep yourself in the fight. Bear in mind that this also staggers enemies, so when you cast it, you're going to stagger the enemies, you're going to heal yourself, and using this as an escape or an engage is going to be super, super useful. The gloves then, again, this is an interesting one. So for right now, Constitution, Dexterity, when I'm using the Rapier, these are pretty good. But Dexterity generally is not that much of a good perk for me, or a good attribute, I should say. But the Constitution obviously is really, really good. And on this piece, I've got 2 things that I really, really like. So I kind of use it as until I get something better, which can be done. You don't want to do it on more than one piece, certainly, especially with the attributes, because the attributes are super important. I've essentially got 10 wasted points right now, so I'm by no means at an optimal build myself. But one thing that is obviously really, really clear from this one, Freedom, which is slow, stun, silence, expire 7.5% faster. Really, really good in all situations, PvP or PvE. Amazing. Obviously, you've got the Elemental Ward on there, so the Gambit Gem, which is plus 2.5% elemental damage absorption. Really good for wars, a lot of ice showers going down, a lot of fire, so it's really, really helpful. And of course, with the Void Gauntlet now as well, that's even better. And then obviously, Angry Earth Ward at the bottom there, which is plus 4.8% damage against Angry Earth. Again, it's not bad for the arenas, it's not bad for the elite zones, but generally in PvP, it's pretty useless. But keeping the same set on for both kind of gives me a little bit of a buff there. And then we, of course, have Revitalizing Beacon, which is using Beacon, increases the healing power on self by 37% for 12 seconds. Now, this might not be for all healers, but because I'm using a Paladin build, this is absolutely perfect for me. So what I usually do, if I pull out the Life Staff here, you'll see I can cast Beacon on someone. So this guy here would get Beacon. I've then got increased self-healing, and I would cast Orb of Protection on me, which as you can see gives me a 25-second Fortify buff and would heal me for a decent amount because I've already cast Beacon on this player. So for me, my build, that works exceptionally well. For your build, maybe it's not going to be so much, but you can kind of mix and match that and work out what would work for you. But for me, I really like that one. So again, that piece works well. Now, when we're looking at jewelry, we don't really have specific weapon perks on or anything like that, but there is certainly some good perks that you can get, which you really, really want to look out for. So obviously the Infinity Crystal is really, really good. Spoiler alert, if you have not finished the main story, stop watching this for the next 5 seconds, just skip ahead. But you get this as a reward for completing the current main story. And obviously it's got Divine on, which is gaining 9.3% more health from all incoming health effects or healing effects. Fortify, you apply lasts 14% longer, and that is really, really good with this build because it's all about the Fortify, and obviously the healing numbers are nice, but the Fortify is the most important thing. And then the health there, 9% maximum health, really, really good. Then I've got on the ring right now, obviously I've got a 959 one, it's Dex Con, so I've switched over just because I am now going to be using the Rapier a little bit for PvE and a little bit of Outpost Russian stuff, testing out a build, trying to work on something for you guys here on the channel. But this one's obviously Dex Con. With that, I've got the Onyx gem on there, so it's 2.5% physical damage absorption. Refreshing, which is max cooldown reduction by 2.8%. Really good to have on any piece. It's always a really, really good one, especially if you're a healer. But obviously, any class where you can use any abilities faster, it's always going to be really, really good. And then, of course, we've got Sacred on there as well, which is plus 8.4% outgoing healing for a paladin or any healer. That is amazing. Now, what you will notice, though, here, if I go over to my old ring that I was using, or the ring that I use with my strength build, it has got Hearty on. Now, a lot of people don't use Hearty or don't know about Hearty. It gives you 9.1% more max stamina. Now, if you look right here at my bar, if I dodge, you'll see I've got 100. It goes back up pretty quickly in the settlement. But if I throw on this ring instead, you guys will be able to see I actually have 109, which allows me, of course, in medium, you just do 3 dodges anyway. You can with just a regular amount of stamina. But if you are in heavy or if you're in light, then Hearty is really, really worth it because you will actually get an extra dodge. Yes, it will take you to below minimum if you get that extra dodge in succession, but it allows you to create much more distance. On top of that as well, if you're tanking, you've got a little bit extra resistance there with the block or any kind of blocking. You've got extra stuff there. And of course, it regens quicker, goes back up quicker, so that if you are kind of roll cancelling to get out of the way or even duck cancelling with the heavy armor, which is now kind of a big thing that's coming up, you're able to do that a lot more frequently, which gives you a lot more mobility. And particularly, I really enjoyed this when I played Heavy Bruiser. It was super, super useful, so I would certainly recommend that. Now, I'll put the other ring back on and we'll look at the earring here. This one is currently, again, a dex one, but it's got focused, which for me, mana regen is really, really important when I'm healing a lot. So, brilliant. And then purifying toast. This one is really, really good. It's when you drink a regeneration potion, you lose 1 debuff. So, all of these regen potions that I saved for the wars, every time I drink one of those, I lose a debuff. So, can't go wrong with that one. Now, my previous one I had Refreshing Toast, which is potion cooldowns at 28% faster. And that is also a really, really good one to have on. So, again, just knowing about these things, you can go on places like New World Database, have a look what there is available. Or, indeed, you can go over to the actual crafting station. So, if I just run over to the outfitting station here, I'll show you guys that what's available. So, if you head over to the outfitting station or whichever station it is that you wanted to craft something from, you can click on the determined perk here and it will show you all of the things that you can get. So you can go ahead and with this update now since 1.0, you can actually see what these do. So obviously like Refreshing Ward tells you what it does there, but you can also see the ones you don't have, what they do as well, which is really, really nice. So you can actually go through and see, for example, Refreshing Toast, potion cooldowns 10 to 28% faster. Really, really good. So you can go through these and see which is kind of the ones that you want to have. I would personally recommend Refreshing Toast and Duplicating Toast on the earring here, as these are really, really good perks. So you can always try and get some of those with the crafting mods or with a roll if you do want to do that as well. Now, finally here, I'm going to look at weapons. And of course, as you guys can see, this one is a 600 weapon, as is my Yulkithur here, which is a really, really nice Warhammer. And then I also have the Dark Sky here as well. These ones are all from level 200 weaponsmithing, so you will have to get that up, and they are bind on pickup, which means you can't trade them. So unless you have 200 weaponsmithing yourself, you won't be able to make them. But what you can do is make things like this right here, this rapier, which I just crafted yesterday. You can see it's not quite the 600, it was quite annoying, 2 points off, but it is still plus 29 dex, and it has Vicious on and Plagued Strikes. Now, Plague Strikes is really important. This is one of the new perks, but these, again, weapon perks are something which you can't get on any armor pieces. So, for example, Plague Strikes is one of those, and they do make a huge difference. So that one is heavy attacks against the target inflict disease for 8 seconds, reducing healing effectiveness on the target by 24%, which is absolutely huge. Now, it doesn't give me the plus 30 stat, which obviously the 600 ones do, but still 29 is very, very good. And with those stats on, it is really, really good. But as you guys will be able to see, on this one here, for example, if you do manage to roll a 600 or you want to buy a 600, whatever the case may be, you do get those 3 perks and the plus 30 stats, which is really important. So this one is really, really good. It is plus 11% critical chance. Leeching Flurry, which of course is an ability-based perk, which is each hit of Flurry restores 28% of the damage as health. So again, basically a third for each hit, which is really, really good. And then Keenly Jagged, of course, which is on a critical. You cause bleed that deals 7% weapon damage per second for 10 seconds. And of course, has a 10-second cooldown. So it's essentially an extra ability almost. And with the plus 11% crit chance, it's really, really nice. And just to show you guys what Flurry actually is, it's this one right here. So they're stupidly fast attacks. So again, it makes it really, really good. Now, if we head over to the weapon crafting table, again, it depends on kind of what you're wanting to craft. So obviously your bows, your spears, your muskets are all going to be at the engineering table. Your life staffs, void gauntlets, and fire staffs are going to be the arcana table. And of course, then you've got swords, you've got axes, you've got warhammers, and you've got rapiers, which are all going to be at this table over here, or the forge, I should say, and of course shields as well. Now, with these, you can see, again, exactly what you can see on the other stuff, so you can determine a perk if you want a specific one, and this is again where you can get the certain things. So for example, these newer ones, thwarting counter, thwarting strikes, for example, you can basically look through and see what the best ones are. But again, if you can get ideally either something like this, which gives all heavy attacks inflict disease, which is really, really good across the board, or you can get something specific like this one here, where it's leeching flurry, is really, really good. For example, on the staff here, I've got Blessed, which is plus 20% healing bonus, and then I've got Refreshing Divine Embrace. To be honest, I don't use Divine Embrace, so that's kind of a wasted perk, and again, if I was to roll another one, or try and get another roll on a life staff, I would try and get one with Blessed, because I think that's the most essential thing for a life staff, plus maybe an ability on something that I use. But to be honest, I've already got Fortifying Sacred Ground, and I've already got the Beacon one here, so right now it's not too bad that I don't have that, although if I was using something for Orb of Protection, that would be much, much better on this one. So again, there's still room for myself to improve, but I'm just kind of explaining to you guys how you can actually go ahead and do this, and how you can kind of optimize your build for the end game depending on what content you want to do. Now, we've touched on perks for the end game builds here, and obviously when you get into these kind of end game zones, you'll be able to pick up what you want to use weapons wise, armor wise, in terms of what capabilities of weight class you want to be in, light, medium, or heavy. I'm currently in medium, so I use a heavy helmet, heavy chest plate, medium gloves, light legs, and medium boots, which puts me just at 29.9, just into that medium equip load. So 10% bonus damage and 15% bonus healing, which is really, really good for the paladin build. Obviously on top of that, you want to know what stats. So right now, my stats are a little bit skewed. I've got strength up here, I've got dexterity, I've got focus, I've got con. It's all over the place. But what you would need to know is kind of build into the weapons you're using. So for me, usually I will have 0 dexterity or 5, because 5 is the lowest you can get. 5 on this, 5 on intelligence. I then go for 150 con, or sometimes I go to about 136 and use stat boost food in wars. And then I'll use 160 on focus. The reason I go to 160 rather than 150, and this is really important for any healer or anyone that's going to be using a life staff alongside to kind of off heal or paladin heal like myself, always go to 160 because it gives you a big bonus to your healing rather than staying at the 150 mark. The next one is then at 210, where you get extras, so if you can go all the way up to 210, and then 232 is the final one where you get a big boost to healing. So if you are full healer, obviously you want to be up to around that 232 is a minimum mark. Of course, if you want to go for 300 to get you, when your mana hits 0, again 200% mana regen, you can, but you can also stop around that 232 to 235 mark just to get that most powerful healing, whilst not needing to go much past it, depending, of course, if you want to just go full focus or not. And then the rest I would usually dump into strength. On top of that, with the strength, I would usually either have full strength buff food if I had this to base at 150 like I do now, or if I had this to 136, I would then do a split con strength food so that they both went up. Right now, I would do, maybe if I got rid of the strength, let's say I swapped out my amulet so I had a full dex build, I'd just do a dex stat boost food because I've already got the constitution down here. But if I wanted to lower this a bit to have some more base points in dexterity to do more base damage as I'm going around, then I'd do a split con dex one as well, which is another option you can do. But generally, this is, kind of an unusual build split between what would be 3 points, essentially. Usually, it's going to be kind of constitution and then whichever your main stat is. So for example, 150 con, 300 strength or whatever, and this again depends on the armor you've got, how much extra stats you've got from that, of course your jewelry, and then your player level as well. Obviously you should be 60 for this video for endgame builds, but of course you want to make sure that you're scaling for whatever weapons you're using for. So great axe, warhammer, strength, right now trying out the rapier, so that's obviously dexterity and intelligence, and then life staff you've got solely focus. So again, kind of a mixture for me, but just go off whatever ones you want and make sure that the pieces that you're picking up, you want the perks on, of course, but you also want to make sure that they are the right stats. Like I said, you can't really even afford one to be the wrong stats. You're missing out on like 10 points. I've got one right now and it sucks because it's a great perk and a terrible attribute. So try and get the right attributes prioritized, then the item perks or the weapon perks or the skill perks, whatever you want to call them, and then any other useful perks you can get on it. And if you can get a god piece that's got the right attribute, an ability perk or a weapon perk or whatever, and then 2 other useful perks that you also want. So for example, you grab a piece with like freedom on, or you grab a piece with resilient or invigorate, then you are winning. It's really good. So if you can get that, amazing, try and get it. Obviously they're usually very, very costly or a super rare roll, but if you can pick up something like that along the way, you're certainly going to want to do it. Now finally, before we end today's video, I do just want to talk about gems. As you guys can see here, I have gone for primarily the onyx gems. I've then got 1 diamond and 1 gambit. These all just basically give me extra resistances across the board, and if you look in the bottom left here, you can see my physical and elemental attribute resistances. And basically with these, obviously I've gone for the physical ones on the onyx gems here, because these just give me a little bit more absorption. The diamond one gives a little bit of each, and the gambit one gives strictly elemental. You'll see I have a little bit more elemental overall, which is why I've compensated with more of these gems on the onyx version. But it's entirely up to you guys what you want to do with those. I do recommend onyx, diamond, or gambit as kind of being your best options for straight defense across the board. In terms of weapon gems, obviously on the life staff, I would say rally is one of the best ones. 15% damage and outgoing healing while at full health. You might think damage isn't good, but the light attack, when you heal players with the light attack, if you're at full health, this light attack does more, so heals players for more, which is always really, really nice. And of course, plus 15% outgoing healing when you're full HP is always a bonus, considering you can always heal yourself up. And then of course on the rapier, I haven't got one in this 600 one that I crafted earlier yet, but I would recommend putting in the emerald, which is opportunist, which is plus 20% damage against targets with less than 30% health, so it allows you to finish off kills a lot better. In terms of the big CC weapons, then I like to go for the cruel gems, which is the malachite gems, and these ones are plus 12% damage against targets with an active crowd control status effect, so slow, stone, brute, etc. So when you're using a big CC weapon, or when you're in a war environment where there's a lot of that going on, this is a really, really good one. That can go again for bows, for AoE. This is really, really nice, but particularly on the weapon you're going to be using for the CC, just to knock a little bit of extra damage in when you're doing it, it's really, really good. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully it has explained to a lot of you how you can build these max endgame builds, how you can start to really overtake the competition. I know a lot of people in wars and PvP environments don't run this sort of thing, and it is super, super important. So please do take the time to look at your perks. Obviously, unless you get in the 600 gear score legendaries, you're only going to get 2 perks on there, but if you do get a 600, that is going to be 3. And with those, you want to make sure that they're all something useful, if you can, with the right stat, and you'll be well on the way to completely dominating your opposition. So if you guys have enjoyed today's video, if you have, please do be sure to leave a like on the video down below, and let me know in the comments if there's any specific perks you've been using that you've really been enjoying that you think people are sleeping on. Other than that, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to the channel down below. We're trying to hit 12,500 subs before the end of the year. We're very, very close, and I do upload every single day, so make sure you aren't missing out on any of the content here on the channel. Other than that, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you tomorrow on tomorrow's upload. Take care, and peace.